You're listening to The Marc Cox Show. Find everything Marc Cox at 971talk.com/Cox.
Well, I think it's more copycats than anything else. I mean, we've seen this now happen a couple other times within the past few weeks from a variety of different suspects and perpetrators. So I don't think we can make a direct correlation, but unfortunately we have a situation where shooting police officers at traffic stops or parked in their cars is becoming their MO. So this is something very disturbing.
Disturbing indeed. We've got Gabe Crocker in the studio, who's the former head of the St. Louis County Police Officers Association and who's been commenting on my show since Ferguson happened, the event there 2 years ago. And it's just... Gabe, when I look at what's gone on in the city, and I see Chief Dotson come out last night and say, you know, we're going with two-man patrols now. They've had to do that in the city of Chicago, I remember, in the past 6 or 8 months because they had terrorist threats. They had gang members threatening to put snipers out on rooftops to target police officers. What do we need to do to change this? And I know that's a broad question, but we just went through an election cycle where Donald Trump said, when I become president, we're going to have law and order. So from the street officer's perspective, how does that happen? How do we get there?
Well, again, now that's, we need 4 hours to cover it, but I'll certainly give you some of the things that have popped into my head and that I've talked with the executive board of other police unions in the St. Louis area. One of the things, first of all, is we need to continue to galvanize the public support behind us. You can't do anything without the public. Right. And I don't mean to start on something that sounds kind of, maybe call it corny or whatever. That's true, though. We need these folks behind us. We need to know that they have our backs, and we need to know that they have an understanding. We work real hard at the County Police Association, and I know the city does as well, to pump out information onto Facebook and other social media outlets, email, and doing radio and television interviews, because we want people to have an understanding. So you got to start there. Second is finances. We can talk all we want, Mark, about fixing problems in law enforcement. I've said on your show prior that, politicians, it's easier to point the finger at police. We're visible. We're the front line of most governments. We're the uniformed presence of government, okay? Right. But they don't know who the councilman is when they see him in a Walmart or at a restaurant, but they know a police officer if they walk in. And so the thing that you have to do is we have to consider serious changes in the way that we fund and the way that we recruit and the way that we retain police officers. Now, I've beat this drum a million times before, but it really is where we're at with that because, Mark, we can't continue to lose officers in these areas, and we cannot recruit our way out of a retention problem. We can't keep people. You can't just keep milling these people through because then, there could be some issues about whether or not there's proper training and whether or not you have somebody that really has what it takes to be in that position. So we need plenty of officers, but we need good funding. We need good, solid laws that protect our police officers. There's no reason that if a police officer's in a shooting that his or her name should be plastered all over the media the next day so his house can be burnt down, or so his wife can be threatened, or so his kids can be threatened at a bus stop by some, actionable group of individuals who are out trying to seek social justice. So protect police officers. I'm not saying they're above the law. We still have criminal and civil penalties for the actions that we take while we're in the performance of our duties. But we need to make sure that we're taking these steps. So we're hiring good police officers. We're paying them a livable wage because most officers right now in some areas could probably get government assistance. And coincidentally, they're patrolling some of the worst areas in St. Louis County, in St. Louis City. I mean, it's incredible. So you have to pay these police officers. You have to put, in some cases, yes, two officer cars out there on the street. You have to give the officers the equipment and the tools that they need. That harkens immediately back to, why are they wearing riot helmets? That's so intimidating to me. When the police officers are wearing gear that prevents their heads from being split open when it gets hit with a rock. Go back to the machine gun fire of the police officers being shot at when they were in the armored vehicle in Ferguson, and the bullets are ricocheting off the side of the armored vehicle. It looks like a bank truck.
Right. I've seen it. Yeah.
And so the bullets are ricocheting off of that. And the next day, the question was not oh gosh, are those officers okay? It was, well, why were they in such an intimidating vehicle?
Why have you militarized the police?
The
that was the question.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so, but yet since then we've seen time and time again. So again, let's talk pay. Let's talk benefits. Let's talk about state and local laws that protect police officers. They don't have to put them above the law. They're still culpable. They're still accountable. There's still measures in place. But let's do things for these police officers that lets them know that they're not going to be in jail the next day because someone tried to kill them. Yeah,
and then the other side of that is making sure that these people aren't let out of jail too early on if they're accused of previously assaulting a police officer or the public. I mean, you run into that all the time.
I don't even know what to do about the correctional problem.
Right.
Because I could throw out outlandish ideas like maybe it's time to start thinking about that you hear a lot of talk. By the way, on both sides of the aisle, very conservative, very Democrat, liberal, talking about nonviolent offenders, like guys that got caught with 20 pounds of weed 8 years ago and they're still in prison. Could we maybe move that person out and a violent gun-toting felon in? Those kind of concepts. Now, I don't want to sound like, this extreme liberal, but I'm saying we have to come together, no matter what your political affiliations are, get together and start solving some of these problems. What do we want? Who do we want locked up? Who do we not want locked up? And those are important things that we have to think about on a large scale from a high up view. We have to look down on these problems and find solutions.
Let me get to a couple of phone calls here. Robert, thanks for holding on. You're on the air with Gabe Crocker. Go ahead.
Hey, I live right down the street from the officer-involved shooting, and I think the police have lost the narrative when it comes to demographic targeting to win the support. And I agree with his statement about Tony Messenger. He failed to mention anything about what the victim or the perpetrator did to that family. And again, that's why the left has won the narrative and the police continue to lose the narrative, because at not only locally and national levels, Don Lemon, Van Jones, and Tony Messenger spread it to a certain population, and they've won the argument. And it's sad because cops day in and day out are doing good things, but yet we have, I'm going to not use a bad term, but bad people spreading the narrative. And it makes it very frustrating for us conservatives or police backers who just want the police to go home daily and with their families.
Robert, thank you for the call. Gabe, any thoughts on that?
Well stated. What am I supposed to add to that? I mean, because he's right. I mean, there is that, again, certain elements of the media that really drive home these points. Why? Mark, it is not news. They need clicks. They need clicks on their website. They need people buying papers, and that's it. That's what this is about.
Mary, you're on the air.
Hi, officer. I don't know if you're an officer. I just want to tell you that
I'm not a very good one.
Oh, stop.
Well, maybe I was once, but not anymore.
I have utmost respect for the police department.
Thank you.
In St. Louis and in St. Louis County. I live in the city. I'm about 3 houses away from substation. I think that's 1 and 2 combined there on sublet.
Mm-hmm. I know right where that is.
I wear my band, my bracelet that says Blue Lives Matter and Blue Lives Do Matter. The signs in my yard say thank you, officers. You guys have got just almost an impossible task, and I feel for you. I really feel for you guys. I think. When I look back at all this, I've thought about this a lot. I think this all started with our commander-in-chief. It all started, and I've tried to understand all this. When he said the police acted stupidly, that's when things took a dive.
Yep, you can almost pick that out, as a moment where some people were able to pick up on the national narrative that it was okay to go after the police, and it took several years, but now it appears to be manifesting itself through acts of violence.
Now it's the thing to do to shoot a police officer. So you have my utmost respect.
Thank you very much.
Utmost confidence, and I wish you all safe returns to your homes in the evenings.
I know a lot of them are listening, and they're hearing what you're saying, so thank you very much.
Mary, thank you for the call, and thank you for listening. I appreciate that. Let me get to Scott real quick before I run out of time in this segment. Scott, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi there.
I called in. I just wanted to let you know if I had done, deadly force like I would have, or like I should have, Darren Wilson would not be in this situation. We wouldn't have this Ferguson, and he had a weapon.
So, Scott, I know you said you told my call screener that you were a former police officer?
Yeah, I was down in Atlanta, Georgia. I was military police for 8 years, and then I went to Atlanta PD for a year. Then I decided to get totally out of law enforcement, came up here, back home, and, got into security.
Okay.
And Scott's one of those guys, though, that can call in and knows exactly what I'm saying when when we're talking about the difficulties that police encounter. I mean, Mark, I feel I know we're running a little bit out of time here, but I got to tell you, I feel like I could talk about this for hours because we're only ever able to scratch the surface. I can only drag or throw so many people under the bus in a short amount of time because I got a whole list of people that really, really deserve it. Right.
I'm sure.
And because they're not doing anything to help. I mentioned very quickly during the break, over 100 police officers from the St. Louis County Police Department volunteer during their off time with their already low pay, which we're trying to work on. Okay. We're working on that with the Stanger folks and trying to make some progress. Over 100 police officers that have volunteered in one way, shape, or form their own time on their own weekends away from their own families to come in and teach kids from the community in our police athletic league, the St. Louis County Police Athletic League. Now, you don't see very many politicians out there.
I haven't seen any stories on that either.
I'm certain Tony Messenger's not teaching, volleyball or bowling or whatever it is that he does because it's the police officers that are doing it. How much are they being paid? You're asking that. I know you want to know. What's the benefit to them? Zero. Teaching kids how to swim, how to ride horses, how to shoot a bow and arrow, how to, basketball, baseball, soccer. And these are, once again, police officers that are coming in and doing that in their off time. St. Louis County Police Athletic League. I hope some of your listeners will look it up. They're always looking for help in what they do. But it's the police officers that are making that work, not the politicians. No one else, nobody in the media. It's the police officers making that work for the people of St. Louis County, Mark.
Gabe Crocker, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Gabe's a former head of the St. Louis County Police Officers Association and wearing a lot of hats these days, including going to school.
That's right.
On top of all of it. So good luck with everything, my friend.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. We're going to get to a quick break.